Good afternoon. My name is Barkha Dutt, and you are watching this special broadcast. There's a capital twist to what was meant to be a day about farmers. Instead, this is a day that has been overshadowed by politics. If I were to ask you what image you would take away today, it should be images like this one of the Bharat Bandh, of the farmers' protest, of the farmers who are still at the borders of India's capital demanding attention for the legislation that they say is anti-farmer. Which is why we have opened with these images, because we still believe that this is where the country's attention should be. This is where the media's attention should be. But guess what's happening in the capital instead? Instead of us talking about the farm legislation, there is complete chaos outside the house of the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, who in a dramatic development has actually claimed that he is under house arrest. And those are some of the images that you are seeing from outside his house. That's an AAP member of the Legislative Assembly being dragged away by the police. And there are now competing claims that have come from both sides of the divide. The Delhi police says that it's absolute bunkum to say that the Chief Minister is under house arrest. The BJP, which is coincidentally also sitting on a dharna near the Chief Minister's house, is also calling this a lie. But there is now video versus video battle that is unfolding on the streets of Delhi's capital, where the AAP is making an accusation that the police is completely denying. And we'll play out the statement of the police for you in just a moment from now as well. On this program today, AAP MLA Saurabh Bhardwaj was to be with us, and we're still hoping that he'll be able to join us. But in the meantime, let's get two perspectives from two commentators. Let me introduce on the program veteran journalist Radhika Ramaseshan and author and commentator Tuhin Sinha. And, I'll start with you, Radhika, if I may. If my conspiracy theorist, my cynical mind, my jaded mind tells me that the upshot of what has happened, no matter what you believe, is actually nobody is going to talk about the farmers. And we have to step back and ask, who does that suit? And therefore, this is a very, very bizarre situation where the Bharat Bandh has been shadowed by the kind of political drama that has actually taken the Bandh and the farmers off the headlines.
Absolutely. An event of this kind, Bharat Bandh, which, we were all sort of closely monitoring, closely looking at, is played through optics, whether one likes it or not. Tomorrow's papers may have certain details from other states about what exactly happened. But if you go by the optics, if you go by what is coming out, what is playing out on social media, it's all about Arvind Kejriwal's alleged house arrest. I don't know. It's really between him and the Delhi police, all the toing and froing that's going on. So, and because it's in the national capital, because he's the Delhi chief minister, an event like this, I think, is punched way above its weight. Only now, when I was looking at Twitter, reports are trickling in from as far as Assam and Orissa, which say that this bandh has met with a measure of success, that it's not just about farmers protesting in Haryana and Punjab. It has kind of spread all over the country, maybe sporadic, maybe big, maybe small, but the point is that it's had an impact. So that has got completely overshadowed by Arvind Kejriwal's so-called house arrest. As far as Mr. Kejriwal is concerned, he does have a propensity to do histrionics. I mean, this has been proven again and again. And on this occasion, you rightly said, I mean, that it kind of suits the ruling establishment, because the government as well as the BJP, I mean, one saw signs of them floundering for the first time in coping with protests of this kind. I mean, even during the CAA protests, they were not a bit rattled. I mean, they coped well, their defenses were in place, etc. But here, the farmers' protests have definitely rattled the ruling establishment. And now, I mean, if you go, the visuals are going to be dominated entirely by Mr. Kejriwal and his MLAs. Who does it suit? Obviously, it suits the BJP, because you're not going to get an idea about the dimension of the protests, about the scale of the protests, until you probably read the papers tomorrow.
So when you say it suits the BJP, why do you think then that Kejriwal is doing this?
Barkha, Mr. Kejriwal has a stake in Punjab, and ever since the protests started, he's been trying to sort of, muscle in and trying to seek a place for himself in the whole landscape, so to speak. But to the credit of the farmers, the protesters, they did not allow any political party to take away from their agenda, from their protests. They very single-mindedly focused on the repeal, on their demand, which was to repeal the farm law. And they knew that allowing a political party, be it the Aam Aadmi Party or the Congress, to hijack the agenda would be disastrous. But of course, outside of Delhi, we all know that Kejriwal has been trying to carve out a turf in Punjab and to an extent in Haryana. So there is probably a political agenda as well. And if you have noticed, in his present term as a chief minister, Kejriwal has really mended his relations with the center and with the BJP, which is fair enough. Nobody would want an antagonistic center. And especially a government like Delhi, which has had to suffer on account of its hostile relations with the BJP and the center in the past. So that is fair enough. Of course, conspiracy theorists will be tempted to read more than that in this whole episode, which happened today, and probably imagine that it has helped the BJP more than any other entity.
So talking of the BJP, let me bring in Tuhin, who, apart from all the other hats he wears, is also a member of the BJP. And Tuhin, we do hope the AAP representative does join us and isn't caught up in those street protests and those clashes that are taking place outside the Chief Minister's house. But to Radhika's point, who actually says that this is perfectly to the script, as it were, when it comes to the BJP, how do you respond to that?
Well, the BJP doesn't have any role in the theatrics of Mr. Kejriwal, because if you look at Mr. Kejriwal's career, his entire career is constructed on falsehood and hypocrisy. On 23rd November, in fact, Delhi was one of the first states to notify the Farmers' Produce, Trade and Commerce Ordinance 2020, which was one of the laws which were passed in Parliament as far as the farm laws, as far as the 3 farm laws are concerned. So post that, any which way, Mr. Kejriwal had no locus standi or no reason to stand up in support of the farmers. Now, today, even as we speak, there are videos of him having attended a late-night marriage yesterday. Apparently, the AAP members or AAP Karyakartas are claiming that he has been arrested post his visit to the Singhu border in the evening. But there are videos of him having attended a marriage at night. And there are also videos of the police cajoling AAP members to go inside and meet Mr. Kejriwal, but they're refusing to go inside. At the same time, Mr. Kejriwal can come outside and meet. So, given the between the police commissioner of Delhi and Mr. Kejriwal, I would definitely believe the police commissioner of Delhi. Mr. Kejriwal, as you would recall, during the Delhi riots, when Tahir Hussain was assembling bombs on his terrace, all that Mr. Kejriwal was doing, sitting in his vicinity and tweeting about the protest. So he has no credibility, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why the AAP representative might not turn up on your show today.
Yeah, so this is a very strange situation, because we are discussing the Aam Aadmi Party without a member of the Aam Aadmi Party there after a committed sort of attendance and participation from Saurabh Bhardwaj. But let me play out actually, Tuhin, the clip that you spoke about, right? You spoke about the fact that there are videos that are now emerging where the police is saying that you can hear us on tape, and we are saying that you are free to come in and meet the Chief Minister. So I'm just going to play out one of those videos.
घर के दोनों तरफ इन्होंने बैरिकेडिंग कर रखी है, ना मुझे जाने दे रहे हैं, मैं किसी और विधायक को
गलत बयानी ना करें। आपके अभी 2 एमएलए और 2 काउंसलर जा चुके हैं, यदि किसी और का अपॉइंटमेंट है उनका भी स्वागत है, वो जा सकते हैं। इसलिए प्लीज झूठ ना बोलें, किसी को बरगलाने की कोशिश ना करें, लॉ एंड ऑर्डर सिचुएशन बिगाड़ने की कोशिश ना करें। साथ में आपको इस बात का भी निर्देश दिया जाता है कि अपने गाड़ी रास्ते से हटा ले, ताकि लोगों को आने जाने में कोई दिक्कत ना हो।
आपने मुझे रोका?
नहीं, आपको नहीं रोका गया है। आपका कोई अपॉइंटमेंट है, आप अपॉइंटमेंट दिखाएं, आप अपॉइंटमेंट दिखा के जा सकते हैं। जितने एमएलए हैं, काउंसलर हैं, उनका स्वागत है, वो जब चाहे जा सकते हैं।
So this is very, very interesting, right? Because you can actually hear on this
So,
video. One second, Tuhin. I'll just recap what we saw in the video for our viewers. You can hear Somnath Bharti, who's with the Aam Aadmi Party, saying he's being stopped from meeting the Chief Minister on one speaker. And on another speaker, you are hearing the police saying, do not lie. You are free to go in. Whoever wants to go in can go in. But then, of course, the Aam Aadmi Party has released other videos where they show their MLAs are being dragged by the police and there's a complete melee happening, right? So it's become a video versus video war. And guess what? No one's going to talk about the farmers. So I keep coming back to this, that no matter how many allegations that you do make against Kejriwal, does this not suit the BJP, Tuhin?
if Mr. Kejriwal is enacting a certain line of politics, I'm sure, we are not going to warm up to these theatrics or this drama. I don't know what he has in mind, because in the past we have seen him, indulge in similar falsehood in all his confrontations with the Lieutenant Governor. We have seen him indulge in similar falsehood in his entire COVID mismanagement. Apparently when the situation would run out of control, he would reach out to the Home Minister and then want to take credit for what happened after the intervention of the Home Minister. So I don't think he has any credibility. And whether it suits the BJP or not, if he is bent upon suicide, can we stop political suicide? Or if he's indulging in some behavior which is going to harm
Why
his
is this political suicide? Some would say that actually the BJP and the AAP might have the same end goal. Kejriwal, gets to play Punjab as his battleground. You all get to attack him. The conspiracy theorists or jaded oldies like Radhika and myself would say this actually suits both of you. This suits both of you. You can rhetorically keep
Barkha,
name calling each other, but actually it suits both of you.
But you've been you've been coming up with a similar conspiracy theory insofar as Asaduddin Owaisi is also concerned. But I can tell you, people like Asaduddin Owaisi and Arvind Kejriwal have nothing to do with the BJP ideology. At best, they are megalomaniacs who want all the attention for themselves. And I don't think the BJP will ever have any truck to do. If for some reason he's trying to warm up to the BJP or trying to appease the BJP, I'm not privy to that. I have no idea.
No, I'm not saying Tuhin that he's doing this to warm up to the BJP. I'm saying there's a convergence of interest. For Arvind Kejriwal, he gets to say that I am being victimized by the Delhi police. I wanted to stand with farmers. His goal is Punjab. For the BJP, it minimizes the media attention on the farmers on a day when the Home Minister is continuing to talk to the farmers. It minimizes the media attention on the farmers. So in both cases, the end goal is different, but there is a convergence of interest.
From all the videos that are available with you and on the internet, my sense is that he doesn't even want to meet his own MLAs today because he might be indulging in some private activity which he doesn't want them to know. He's anyway very aloof. He doesn't, he was lucky to win a second term. So at the end of the day, apart from the AAP representative who didn't turn up on your show, there will be other AAP representatives who will be cursing him. That's what his political reputation today is.
Okay, let me bring Radhika. Radhika, I know you're wanting to come in, and just before you speak, there is also the counter view. So we played the video where you can clearly hear the police telling Somnath Bharti, "Don't lie, you are free to go in." To which the Aam Aadmi Party has kind of released these images where you see one of their MLAs actually be dragged away by the police. Now, it's not clear what the context of this is. The MLA is claiming I'm not being allowed to go in. The police is on the speaker saying you are allowed to go in. So there's complete chaos. And like I said, for the media, this is one more day card drama. It's the kind of thing that television cameras and video cameras will feast off. And it actually really trivializes the conversation around farmers.
Absolutely. I mean, I would want the focus to be on the law, on the issues which have exercised the farmers for the past 3 months. I mean, this is a long drawn agitation. It's not one of those spontaneous extempore things which have happened like in a day or a couple of days. And the visuals that you are playing out, this is so typical of the Aam Aadmi Party's politics, this kind of belligerence, aggression, confrontation, confronting the police. I mean, they've done it time and again. It's so typical of the Aam Aadmi Party. And it does seem pre-planned to me. I don't think they thought up the tactic on the spot or something like that. They had come prepared to challenge the police because, as I said earlier, Mr. Kejriwal does want a slice of this farmer's pie. He is not getting it. I mean, by no means. And, his performance in the last elections in Punjab, much as despite all the hyperbole, was actually a damp squib. So there is that thing as well that elections are coming in Punjab in 2022 early, along with Uttar Pradesh, etc. So maybe he's looking to carve a bit of a space in Punjab. But more than that, this is the Aam Aadmi Party's politics of dramebaz, if I may use the word. I mean, playing out these sort of visuals which have overshadowed everything else, especially the protests which the farmers have organized meticulously, given the kind of planning that has gone for the last 3 months. I am very sure they would have organized the protests also to the last letter to a T. Unfortunately, that has got completely overshadowed thanks to Mr. Kejriwal wanting to do his politics. BJP can sit pretty and smile because he's kind of helped distract attention from an issue which had palpably embarrassed the centre and the party. I mean, to an extent that one of the national spokespersons, RP Singh, had to come out and contradict Kangana Ranaut when she dissed the protesters, when she dissed the farmers. So, I mean, it was something that the BJP was finding hard put. For the first time, the BJP, which is otherwise very articulate, thinks on its feet and comes up with responses, had fumbled on this occasion. And today, Kejriwal has, in a way, come to its rescue and salvage the situation for the sector.
So before I get Tuhin to respond to that, in the interest of fairness, because the AAP MLA Saurabh Bhardwaj, who was committed to be a participant in the show, dropped out at the very last minute, 2 minutes before the show, I'm just going to play out what Sanjay Singh of the Aam Aadmi Party said, because we did show the video where the police is saying that everybody is free to go in. Let's just hear the counter view from the Aam Aadmi Party.
मोदी सरकार के तुगलकी फरमान को मानने से इनकार किया और 9 स्टेडियम को किसानों के लिए जेल बनाने की जो योजना थी मोदी सरकार की, उसको मानने से, अनुमति देने से इनकार किया। आज उसी अरविंद केजरीवाल दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री के घर को जेल में मोदी सरकार ने तब्दील कर दिया है। उनको उनके ही घर में कल से गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है। जैसे ही वो सिंघू बॉर्डर पे किसानों से मिलकर आए, उनका हालचाल लेकर आए, उनकी सुख सुविधाओं की बात पूछ कर आए, उसके तुरंत बाद से उनको कल दिल्ली मुख्यमंत्री के आवास में ही कैद रखा गया है, गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है और ये काम देश के गृह मंत्री अमित शाह के कहने पर हुआ।
You can see there that that Sanjay Singh is rhetorically talking about the fact that they turned down the Delhi police proposal Tuhin to convert stadiums into jails, which was in fact a proposal. One cannot in fact deny that. But there are other comments on our live stream that say that there's no clarity on how far Kejriwal will go in his opposition to the farm laws. Will he, for example, decline to notify them? What will happen as a state? What will he do? Tuhin, go ahead on what you heard Sanjay Singh say.
You need to understand that Kejriwal was a closet anarchist, and he will remain that. So when you talk about him possibly carrying out these antics, keeping in mind the Punjab elections, let me tell you that in Punjab they are actually in a worse position than where they were in the run-up to 2017. And in 2017, mind you, they had actually used one of the members of a banned Khalistan outfit, and you can check one of the the records available on the net in credible newspapers. So they can go to any extent to come to power. But I can tell you at this point of time, beyond Delhi, where he's very lucky to survive as chief minister because of the leadership crisis which we had in our party, I don't think this brand of politics, which is constructed on falsehood, hypocrisy, and and which completely derides national interests. I don't think this brand of politics has any existence beyond where Mr. Kejriwal is lucky to survive at this point of time.
Okay, we have time. We have time just for last comments. I want to turn our attention back to, I think, what Radhika reminded us of, that the protests of the farmers, the call for the Bharat Bandh, has been amongst the strongest sort of acts of dissidence and political protest to the BJP since the protests against the citizenship legislation. So students and farmers have been possibly the two groups that have really stood up to a policy of the government. But will the mainstream media even talk about them? If they don't, then it will be because of the tamasha that we are seeing unfold outside the house of the Delhi Chief Minister. Pictures that Radhika, Ramaseshan and Tuhin agree on one thing, that they're more about drama than about fact. It's actually difficult to believe that the Chief Minister is actually under house arrest. I mean, why would the BJP do that? I don't know. It's puzzling. Why would the Delhi police do that rather? But Sanjay Singh is blaming the Home Minister. So I just want final thoughts. Tuhin, I'll start with you. Let's come back to the farmers' protest. Do you think that the government needs to reach out much more than in fact it has?
See, we have placed on record in 2010, Sharad Pawar as Agriculture Minister had rooted for the same reforms. He had asked states to work out ways to free farmers from the shackles of APMC, demarcations and restrictions and so far as the markets for farmers were concerned. Similarly, Mr. Amrinder Singh has supported these reforms in the past. The ex-Congress CM of Haryana, Mr. Huda, has been supportive of these reforms. Congress had it in the election manifesto. So if you minutely read the Farmers' Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act, there is one provision, provision number 5, which if you read minutely, that pretty much covers the aspect of price assurance as well. Even then, if farmers are dissatisfied on any issue, we have been having a range of talks. There are 5 rounds which have already taken place, and we are ready to talk to them as much as possible to clear the doubts and misconceptions. But these protests have been leveraged upon by those political parties which had electorally become defunct, and this was like the Shaheen Bagh Andolan. This was their last opportunity or one desperate attempt to be back in the limelight.
You're saying the protesters are all politicians?
They have been waylaid by politicians. For example, let me give you another instance. In Bihar, APMC has not existed since 2006. But RJD is leading the protests and burning tires and obstructing traffic. So who are they doing it for?
So I think...
APMC was done away by Nitish Kumar in his previous...
In 2006.
I mean, that is why RSS is, the RJD is legitimately protesting, the doing away of APMC.
But they're doing it 14 years down the line.
I mean, to answer you, Mr. Sinha, the point is that if you notice, these protesters have assiduously kept out political parties of any shade. If I remember right, I think Derek O'Brien was the first politician to actually go to the spot on Mamata Banerjee's order and speak to the farmers. So these farmers, as a strategy, have not allowed any political party to...
I mean, yeah, I can tell you
appropriate their space.
I was just going to say I've interviewed many of them on the ground, and not one of them has an affiliation to a political party. They may have an affiliation to a political ideology. Who can help that? But the point is that they do not have an affiliation to a political party. But Tuhin, we need to end, and I wanted to take this question on our live stream, and I think this sums up the situation. Binu says, in the midst of all this puzzling drama, what hope do the farmers have of reaching a solution? And that's the exact point I think Radhika has been trying to make, that the farmer story is going to get knocked off prime time, it's going to get knocked off the headlines. And actually, Radhika, it might give the Home Minister, who is entering another round of talks now with the farmers, wiggle room to reach some sort of maybe breakthrough, in which case Kejriwal can get to play the guy who stood up for the farmers and got locked under house arrest for that. And the BJP, if it does manage to negotiate a deal, can also claim victory. So both sides walk away happy.
Yeah, I mean, that possibility can't be ruled out at all. But looking at the way that the protests have played out for the past weeks, I don't think the farmers are going to yield that easily. Their bottom line is very clear: repeal the laws, and I'm very sure they're going to stick to that demand and not settle for anything short of that.
Okay, we'll keep a close eye on this story. It's time to say thank you to both Radhika and Tuhin. In case our viewers are wondering why there was no Aam Aadmi Party representation, that representative did not actually show up on the show. Yes, Tuhin, you want to quickly add just 30 seconds?
See, Barkha, you have you've seen more of the reforms than me in 1991. I was much smaller than what you were. And reforms have never been an easy or a smooth process. They've always met with stern resistance. But do we, does that mean we go back on those reforms? Most of these reforms, and I'm sure you would agree, are futuristic reforms, whether it is involving private players whose involvement at some point of time, maybe a year down the line, 2 years down the line, would make the entire agricultural sector.
Let me just respond. Let me just respond to that. My own view is that no matter which side of the farm legislation you are, the fact is that a government's job is to create enough consensus for laws that they believe, and that is politics, right? Effective politics is not to thrust policy down people, but to convince people that it's good for them. And I think that's where the gap is. The debate is really not. The debate is really not about the farm laws per se. Economists have persuaded me either way. I don't know enough to be an expert on it. The debate is over whether you recognize the value of your citizens' anger and what value you place on that.
Yeah, exactly. And there are substantive reasons for the anger. It's not hawa bars, I mean, they have reasons. They have solid arguments to mobilize.
Okay, guys, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but we're out of time. Thank you, Tuhin. Thank you, Radhika. And for the Aam Aadmi Party, we hope that you will come and debate the position and the claim that you've taken. You've claimed that the Chief Minister is under house arrest. We hope that you will participate in programs where you can actually substantiate that. We are always interested in a balanced narrative. It gives equal space to all sides. And we did miss having your narrative on the program today. Thank you and see you soon. Thank you, Tuhin. Thank you, Radhika.